Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today, we're going to break down the 49ers 53-man roster and the 3D chess that John Lynch and company are playing to keep all of the players that they covet on this roster.
Hey, everyone, I'm Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers and also a defensive coach for the 49ers for 13 years. And I'm going to talk about opening season, 2 road games coming home and 2 more road games on the road. It's a tough start for them, but hey, they got to become a road team.
Hey, everybody, I'm Brian Peacock, host of Locked On 49ers, 4-time host of the year on the Locked On Podcast Network. Not really, but I was just trying to match Dwayne's energy with the 4 Super Bowl rings over there. I always feel insignificant. A power shift in the NFC? Micah Parsons traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. How does that change the landscape and the playoff hopes amongst these teams in this conference?
Locked On 49ers Squad Show starts now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Sponsored by Gametime. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
And this is the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Thanks to everyone watching on the Locked On Sports Sanford, or on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel. I gotta ingrain that in my brain. New host for the or new spot where the Locked On 49ers post game lives this year for the Locked On Sports Network. And also, if you aren't subscribed, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button right now for the Locked On 49ers podcast. And this episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And a lot of news this week, a lot of news. And I kind of want to pick up with the most the biggest headline news that we've had all week long. And it's not necessarily a 49er specific topic, but it does impact the 49ers as far as the playoff picture goes. I am, of course, talking about Micah Parsons, the big blockbuster trade after the standoff with Jerry Jones. He gets sent to Green Bay, sent packing, and this is earth-shattering. This is a magnitude 10 level trade, and I'm still kind of trying to get my arms around this whole thing. And I want to start with Dwayne. You obviously played this same position in the NFL, and we were just kind of bouncing it around before we just started the show. Me and Brian were about prior massive deals that not just the Packers have done, but that have happened throughout the NFL history at that specific position that have made contenders out of teams that were previous fringe teams. So my question, Dwayne, is how big of a get? Obviously, it seems like a layup answer. It's a big get, but just how much does this move the needle for the Green Bay Packers? Does acquiring Micah Parsons put them in that Super Bowl conversation?
I think it does, because it goes back, some years, back when Dallas made the trade for Charles Haley. If you're going to put a great player in your division, you're not thinking very clearly, because Jerry Jones, I can't see that he didn't know what he was doing, because that's the same thing he did with the 49ers when he took Charles Haley away from us and brought him in and put him in the same conference that we were, the NFC. So with that, I think, he should have sent him to the AFC. So I'd rather play the championship game, if they make it to the Super Bowl against the AFC team, and not have to play, against him, because he's a great football player. He can change the course of a game. He can change. It's one thing that I'm saying, change the course of a game. When you got a player like Michael, teams have to account for him. So when they account for someone, that means that they're going to have to put 2 guys on him. So that's going to free up someone else along the defensive line. They have a decent defensive line too, the Green Bay Packers do. So, you're right. They're high up as a contender to make it to the Super Bowl right now.
Yeah, they might be the best team in that division after the trade. And conversely, Dallas, obviously, you lose. For my money, he's the best player on the Cowboys on either side of the ball. I know that they got a lot of playmakers over there in Dallas, but losing a guy like that, Brian, I mean, what's this do to the Cowboys? Is this team even a playoff team anymore after that kind of a trade? Or is the only time that the 49ers are going to have a chance to face this team is potentially next year?
Yeah, I think it's going to be next year because it's not going to be the playoffs. I think Dak Prescott's getting Joe Burrowed right now, and they're going to have to beat teams 40 to whatever to even stay in football games. It's a massive piece. I can't think of a singular player that could shift the power structure in the NFC more than if a team added Mahomes or Joe Burrow himself or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Micah Parsons might be the fifth most impactful player that a team could think about adding. And of course, those other four quarterbacks would never be available. And you could maybe add some other quarterbacks to the list, but a 26-year-old, maybe best pass rusher in the NFL, those types of players don't become available very often. So you do have to question the mental acuity right now of Jerry Jones in his twilight years. So I don't know if we need to put him out to pasture quite yet, but it's just, I don't get it. I don't get the posturing, how you play it the whole offseason, the trading him at the least opportune time, even if you decide things have gone too south and you can't come up with a contract. He's still under contract for this year. Play it out. You could tag and trade him next offseason and before the draft, probably get more from some team. And when you consider what the Green Bay Packers give up, which the big thing they give up is the contract, which is bigger than the picks, because we're talking about first-round picks, and I know 2 first-round picks. Kenny Clark, a nice player, but doesn't have a ton of value, I think, in this whole equation versus Parsons and the draft picks. 2 probably late first-round draft picks, and if those draft picks are, divisional round playoff picks, then those 2 picks together are probably worth less than the number 12 overall pick that the Dallas Cowboys spent on Micah Parsons originally to draft him. And by the way, might be a bad time to remind everybody that pick was once owned by the San Francisco 49ers, the number 12 pick in the 2021 draft before they traded up to get Trey Lance. And they spent more on that trade than the Packers did to go get Micah Parsons here. So it's all circular, and it all comes back to the 49ers at some point here, doesn't it? And yeah, it makes things more difficult, I think, because I think the Packers were already a better team, and now that team gets stronger. We'd already seen that the Cowboys couldn't get over the hump even with Micah Parsons. And so maybe, if not the favorite, one of the top 3 teams for sure right now in the NFC are the Green Bay Packers, and really just played horribly by the Dallas Cowboys this offseason.
Yeah, I don't think you can overstate that, or I don't think it's possible to overstate how awful of a situation this was and how poorly Jerry Jones handled it. I mean, I don't know why you don't do this before the draft if you're going to do this at all in the offseason. I mean, I don't know why you let that guy walk out the door in the first place, but if you're going to do this, do it before the draft. Make your team better for this season. Instead, the Cowboys are basically just saying, a week before week 1 starts, we're okay with being mediocre this year. And that's got to be so frustrating for a fan base. I will say I'm glad that the 49ers don't have these types of issues. They're not, John Lynch says this all the time, they're not in the business of letting good football players walk out the door. And that's the hallmark of a good football team versus a bad football team, or ownership more so in the NFL, in my opinion, is ownerships that just let guys walk out the door because they can't get things done. And we don't have that here in San Francisco. Thankfully, John Lynch doing everything he can do to keep good players in the building, which leads me to my next topic. Jauan Jennings, man, this is the other big kind of looming thing that's been hanging around for the 49ers. John was pretty irritated yesterday. I mean, in that press conference, it was palpable when he was asked about the Jauan Jennings situation in the trade request and all that. He very clearly was irked while answering the question and said that Jennings asked for a trade a while ago, which is interesting because Shanahan had just said a few days ago that Jennings had actually never formally asked for a trade. So maybe the difference there is just the wording formally, or I don't know, maybe we're splitting hairs here. However, nonetheless, it's all interesting. And basically, what are we thinking is going to happen? Dwayne, let's go to you. What's your read on this whole Jauan Jennings situation with the contract stalemate and just everything going on with them. I mean, he's got that calf injury. It's a giant question mark as to if he will be ready for week one. And the 49ers wide receiver room is pretty thin already. So Dwayne, do you think that Jennings suits up for the 49ers in week one against the Seattle Seahawks?
Well, yeah, I think he'll suit up, but you brought up the injury part. Guys that don't go through the preseason games, they tend to come back and end up being injured. That's my thing. If you go back and pull guys up, what happened last year? Same thing.
Brandon Ayuk. You don't have to go too far back to remember that.
Yeah, a holdout is a holdout. When the season starts, he might be out at first game, and I think it's a bad deal on Jennings' part because he's a good player, but has he shown that he can be a great player? He can make the clutch catches, but can he put it in the end zone? I haven't seen that. He doesn't have the breakaway speed, but does a good job of getting open. He's got good hands, and it's going to be interesting. Like you said, that receiver room is very, very thin. We hope somebody comes along before they go to Seattle, because they're going to need all the players they can get, and they're going to need them healthy.
Yeah, Brian, where do you, if Jauan Jennings is not healthy for week one, how does this wide receiver core fare against that Seattle secondary?
I do think they'll figure it out, and Jauan Jennings will be out there. We're still not sure where the calf is, and if he has to miss a couple of weeks with the calf injury, then so be it, to get him right. The Niners are thin, but they're getting a little thicker at the wide receiver spot, and they do have some able bodies now after adding a few more players to the practice squad and into the 53-man roster. But it's pretty amazing that it's taken them 14 players to get to 3 or 4 healthy guys right now going into the last week of the preseason before the season starts. We're 1 week out from the kickoff on that Thursday night. And so, a couple extra days for the 49ers to get ready and get everybody healthy. And they signed Russell Gage back, and you got Marquez Valdez-Scantling on the practice squad with Robbie Chosen. You can elevate 1 or 2 of those guys if you need them. So they're going to have bodies out there. Will it be a dynamic group of pass catchers? Probably not, but they really just need the ability to get through these first 3 games. And then you get Robinson back from the suspension. And then hopefully a few weeks after that, you do get Brandon Ayuk back. And then you might be talking about, 4 capable starting players and then a whole bunch of depth. And they have to start cutting guys because they brought in so many veterans, and Kendrick Bourne might be next. So, they'll be fine as far as fielding a team with bodies. And we know that Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, they're the 2 main, the main targets in this offense, the main cogs in the 49ers offense. As long as Ricky Pearsall can be the 3rd option, and a lot rides on Ricky Pearsall this season, I think he's going to be up for it. Then I think the 49ers will be okay. But clearly, and I think the 49ers would be right. As good as Jauan Jennings is, the year before, he had a nice year last year. The year before, he only had 19 catches. And ideally for the 49ers, he's their number 3 wide receiver. And I don't think they want to pay him like a 1 or a 2. I know for sure they don't want to pay him like a 1. They probably didn't even want to pay Brandon Ayuk like a 1, right? Like they end up having to do. So they probably don't want to pay him like a 2 if he's going to end up being the number 3 at some point this season by midseason. And so I see where both sides are. And I'm a big fan of Jauan Jennings, but I think right now you have to wait and see and let him play this out. And if he goes somewhere else in the offseason, then so be it. And maybe they can give him a little re-up and do the 1-year bump thing, so then he can, feel better about playing this season before hitting free agency. But it's really hard for me to envision one of these big long-term contracts right now for Jauan Jennings. And then if they do sign Jauan Jennings to a big long-term contract, what does that say about the future of Brandon Ayuk? Because they're paying a lot of guys, and they're not looking to pay more guys right now. That's been the whole theme of the offseason.
Yes, you can't pay everybody, as you said just now. It has been the entire theme of the offseason, the attrition that the 49ers have faced this year, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but offensive line, I mean, just everywhere around this team. This team has looked to cut cost at every single corner. I do not see them going out and negotiating another deal for another wide receiver that's holding out, especially after the way that kind of piggybacking off what you both just said. Ayuk it didn't work out. I mean, I think we can clearly state that deal is not a good deal at this point. And for the 49ers to be feeling that buyer's remorse literally 1 year removed from making that deal, I don't think that's going to make John Lynch full of confidence to go out and extend Jauan Jennings, especially because, from what Tim Kawakami was reporting earlier today, he appeared on 95.7 The Game with Willard and Dibbs. Shout out Mark Willard, by the way, was my professor in college and helped me get into the world of broadcasting. So shout out Mark Willard. But Kawakami, what he said was what he's been hearing from NFL circles is what Jauan's asking for is high, above $20 million a year, and maybe a lot above $20 million per year to put him in the top 20 or so of wide receivers. That's absolute insanity to me, man. Like, you cannot, like this. I don't think any 49ers fan is sitting there saying Jauan Jennings is going to be, a top 20 wide receiver in the NFL this next year. It would take a massive leap for him to get into that category. And I do like Jauan. I mean, he blocks really well. He plays really hard. As Dwayne said, he's very clutch. We transitioned from third and KB to third and Jauan pretty seamlessly, right? And it's been he's been a nice player in that room, and he does all the things that you want him to do, but he's not going to go out there and dominate a game like these other guys who are making $30 million a year. He cannot, under any circumstances, pull in wide receiver one money. And I think what we saw from John Lynch in yesterday's presser kind of, reassures all 49ers fans that that's not the case. We're definitely not going to re-sign Jauan Jennings to a dollar amount that's high. And Tim Kawakami kind of echoed that as well. He said everything that he's heard is that Jauan Jennings wants a lot, and the 49ers are offering very little, and that they're very far apart on this, that they are not close. I do not see them renegotiating this at all, and I do think it ends with Jauan Jennings leaving in the offseason, which is going to be a bummer, but this is a guy that you can go replace a Jauan Jennings. You can go find another big body receiver who's willing to sell out and block in the run game and also catch some third down passes. You can go find those guys. Remember, Jauan Jennings, a 7th round draft pick. It's not impossible to go find a guy who can do a lot of these same things. And as Brian, you mentioned earlier, Kendrick Bourne, the Niners might be kicking the tires on their old buddy KB, who's no longer on the Patriots. He's 30 years old. Real quick before we get out and head to break, do you think that KB is going to be on this 49ers roster for week 1 against Seattle, Brian?
Yeah, it sounds like he has a couple of visits planned. He's coming to the Niners first. So if he looks good and everything checks out with the physical, I wonder if the 49ers are going to try to not let him leave. If you're one of these veteran wide receivers, though, on the 49ers roster, you might start to look around and see that they're going to have some reinforcements. And I talked about how they've got 14 guys, and a lot of them on the injured list. And there might not be a lot of room. So if you want room to grow and have a role in November and December, maybe the 49ers isn't the right team for you. Maybe they brought in too many veterans to entice another veteran to come onto this roster and fight with not only a bunch of other veteran players who were all released by a team this year, but the guys that the 49ers really want to be out there. And so that's an uphill battle for snaps, I think, late in the season. So we'll see. And I totally agree with you. The 49ers, they developed Kendrick Bourne as an undrafted guy. They developed Jauan Jennings to replace him in the 7th round. Ideally, they should be able to draft and develop these guys for that role. And I think that's where we're at with this stalemate right now.
Yeah, a lot to be decided in the next 9 days or so before the 49ers head on over to Seattle. And it feels like we still got all this time left to figure out the mix-ups in the wide receiver room and just all these other position kind of situations like safety and all that. But it's only a week away. So the 49ers better figure some of these things out fast. And we got a lot more to get to on the Locked On 49ers squad show. I almost said postcast. It's not the postcast anymore. It's the squad show. We got to take a quick break right here. But on the other side, we got to discuss some of the key 49ers position players that look like they're trending back in the right direction, might be ready for week 1. I'm talking, of course, about Dom Pooney, big Dom Pooney in the middle, and a couple other surprises from the 53-man roster, a couple good ones, couple bad ones. We'll get into all of it next on the Locked On 49ers postcast. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And if you aren't using FanDuel already, what are you doing? I mean, you can get in on in-game action. You can bet futures. You can bet money lines. You can bet spreads. I mean, everything you need. FanDuel right at the tip of your fingers, sitting from the couch. You don't got to go anywhere to get all your action in for the NFL season and to bet on all your 49ers. I am looking forward to this year. Finally, the 49ers, I don't think their offensive players are going to be overhyped as much as they were last year. It was tough to get a good line on a Christian McCaffrey or a Brock Purdy. This year, I think you're going to be able to get some good lines on some 49er skill position players. So keep an eye out for that. And if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by four-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board. It just never gets old saying that, man. And joined by the host of Locked On 49ers, Brian Peacock. I feel like the little man in the room. I got to just be honest. When I'm sitting here with you guys, Brian, you've had so much success through the years with the Locked On 49ers show. And Dwayne, I feel like I shouldn't even be talking about football with you on the panel too. I feel like this should just be the Dwayne Board show, man. Like, you have more football knowledge probably in your pinky finger than I do in my whole damn bodies. But I'm just thrilled to be here, be a part of it with you guys. And this is fun, man. I'm having a good time on the squad show. And yeah, man, Dwayne, what, when you think back to your playing days, I mean, what is, if you had to pick out one thing that you just really miss about is it, whether it's the grind or just being around the guys or like actually physically being out there on the field and just demolishing somebody coming off the edge, what's the thing that you just miss the most about playing football?
The thing that you miss the most is the guys that you play with, you know. And when you're a defensive lineman, your secondary, those guys, you really cared about them, you know. But you didn't let them know that, you know. Almost every play they coming back, you know, they're coming to huddle and they're talking to you about, hey, are you guys going to get to the quarterback or are you going to take a water break again? Wait, call the Gatorade man in, you know. You need Gatorade, you know, because back there we can't cover forever, you know, and that's all they did was talk. All they did was complain about how long they had to cover somebody, you know. It's like, hey, guys, you get paid to cover just like we get paid to get to the quarterback. So if you give us a little time, we're going to get home, okay? Time is on your side. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it'd be hard to. I mean, you got a laundry list of guys that you could list from back there. And you know, as the show progresses through the weeks, we will be having some guests on with us on the 49er Squad show. And so, you know, I'm feeling we're going to have to kick the tires on some of your old teammates, Dwayne. We'll get that in the works in the coming weeks. But for the 49ers right now, man, I mean, this team, let's start with the with kind of the surprises and feel good stories and the, you know, things that could have gone differently with the 53-man roster. I want to start with Drew Moss because we talked about him a lot on our last show, and he makes the 53-man roster without any funny business. There's no trying to sneak him through waivers and then sign him back afterwards. Just makes the roster. And so you like to see that. Sebastian Valdez, kind of the other side of the coin, heads to the practice squad, but he's a guy that I think can really contribute to this team at some point this season. I will be really shocked if we don't see him in a 49ers uniform playing meaningful minutes at some point in time this year. So Brian, I want to start with you, man. What was your favorite thing about this 53-man roster? Like, if there's one thing that you saw that you were just glad the 49ers went that direction, and then the other side of that coin too, one thing that you were just not super stoked that the Niners did, maybe something that you would have done a little bit differently. I know you did a can't cut list the other day. So Brian, what do you think about the 49ers 53-man roster moves?
I don't think there was a lot shocking about the cut downs for the 49ers. I think they did a pretty good job. They had to do some gymnastics to try to, you know, make sure they got everybody in and extend that 53-man roster to 55, 56 guys and even cut their punter and bring it back, you know, just to make sure that they could save as many players as they wanted. I was a little surprised that the Sebastian Valdez was cut and that he got through waivers. So a big win for the 49ers to get him back to the practice squad because I thought he put a lot of good tape out there and it looked like he's going to be a baller. And it's interesting that that's the position that they claimed a player in Jordan Jefferson, the second-year guy, is a fourth-round pick last year, cut by the Jaguars. And I talked to our guy, Tony Wiggins, the host of Locked On Jaguars. I was like, what's going on here? How did he get cut in year two after being a fourth-round pick? And he said, basically, I mean, he's massive. He looks the part, but he didn't play the part. And the Jaguars really needed a defensive tackle to step up, and he didn't do that. And he was missing something. He was missing, quote unquote, it. And so we still don't know if he's even a good football player. He looks the part, but is he the part? Is he a good football player? And the 49ers had to cut another defensive lineman, Evan Anderson, who's now added back to the practice squad as well. So I have a feeling we'll see one of those guys, Evan Anderson and or Sebastian Valdez. But they're all kind of similarly, the big bodied power defensive tackles. And the 49ers really don't have much in the way of 3 technique defensive tackles. It's really just Kalia Davis. Like literally they have 1 3 tech on the entire roster. I think they're trying to hopefully convert Alfred Collins into that. I don't think he's ready. He hasn't looked that part in the preseason. I would love to hear Dwayne Board speak about some of these defensive linemen and what he thinks looking through his player and coach's eye of these defensive linemen. And to be honest with you, now that I think about it, do we have the next Dwayne Board on the 49ers defensive line in Micah Williams, a guy that can set the edge, can move inside a little bit, can rush the passer? Because Dwayne Board was a do-it-all kind of player back in the day for the San Francisco 49ers. And I wonder if Micah Williams could be that guy. Dwayne, do we have the next Dwayne Board on the San Francisco 49ers roster?
Well, I kind of see him as that kind of guy. He can play the 5 technique. He can play a rush in. He can go inside, which they need a guy inside, on 3rd down. And, if he goes inside on 3rd down, then, who do you bring on the outside? So you got Sam that they brought in, and he can go line up. So I think with the thing that they have is a great group of balanced guys, that can play a number of spots. And, and that counts big when you're in the playoffs, when you on a stretch, or on a game that comes in close, a tight game where you're leading by 3 and the other team has the ball, because those rushers get tired when they throwing the ball every down, and you got a guy laying on you 300 pounds. So when you can rotate, and like I said this before, and I believe it too when I was coaching, when you get 4 guys that you can count on is big for a defensive line. And you can take pressure off your defense too. Going back to the secondary again, they like it, but I see him as being the guy. Williams as being one of the guys that's, was a big deal for them to get a guy like that.
Yeah, and no doubt Robert Saleh came in and I think was a big part of this and saying, look, man, we need more beef. We need more run defenders up front because I can generate some pass rush and we can run some games and we can bring some blitzers and generate a pass rush, but it won't matter if we can't get to 3rd down in the first place. And so they brought a lot of power players in on the defensive line, and they did again when they claimed Jordan Jefferson. And so I don't think they're worried about the 3 technique pass rusher right now. They want some beef up front.
Yeah, this defensive line looks extremely versatile. And we talked about this on the show after the Chargers game. The versatility that Saleh is going to be able to add to this defense that's just kind of been missing the last couple of years, I think is going to really just bring this defense back to maybe not exactly where it used to be a couple of years ago, but I think it'll be much improved over what we've seen the last couple of years. And I think that the versatility up front is a huge part of that. The 49ers have, I think I read that they have 11 defensive linemen on the 53-man roster. Dwayne, how many defensive linemen is too many defensive linemen for one roster, or is there such a thing? I mean, speaking from a coach's perspective, former coach's perspective, how much versatility do you want on that D line, and what are the things that you're looking for to mix and match with this 49ers, the front 7 in general, but mainly focusing on that defensive line?
Well, having 11 guys is great. I remember when we went to the Super Bowl back in 1994, we had 12 defensive linemen. And the thing about it was a lot of them, the meetings was always interesting because we had guys in there and they would get to talking about their sacks. We had Richard Dent, we had Ricky Jackson, and and Ricky would always bring up how many sacks he had. Ricky had 250 sacks, and Richard Dent used to say, I was just kidding, but Ricky and Richard Dent used to tell Ricky, you don't count the ones in practice, And then you had Tim Harris, he would put his two cents in there. We had a stacked room and all of them played, and that's what you got to have. Up front, you got to have a stacked defensive line because, like I said, when games get tight, you have to bring in fresh rushers to keep those other guys going at a different pace, And it's great to be able to move guys around because it kind of changes up what offensive linemen are looking at. Some guys do some things well, better than others, and you got to know as a coach where you can match guys up at too, And I can see, man, if I had a guy like Bosa back in the day, and Bryant Young, I would have moved them all over the place, And that's the key to it, And when the offensive linemen come out and they know we got Bosa over here, so then they know where they're going to send up a protection. But when you line guys up and they're not quite ready for it, it's different for offensive tackles and guards to see, a different rusher lined up on him, because he's going to face a guy with different pass rush technique.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of the plan. And, there's whispers that Robert Saleh has been in the lab and he's, the 49ers have been running this wide 9 4-man front for a while now, but apparently they might debut a little 5-man front. Might start to look more like that old 3-4 sort of a defense with a little bit more of a 5 technique flair. I think Alfred Collins could definitely do that. I think Michael Williams on rushdowns could kind of come inside and be that with his length. And then you have Bryce Huff coming off in waves off the edge, and Nick Bosa can do everything right. And then, and then it starts to make a little bit more sense there too. So that's a really interesting wrinkle as well. And that might be why they need more defensive linemen. And I think they're still trying to, I think it's similar on the offensive line. They got 21, 22 total offensive and defensive linemen, which is way more than they've carried recently. I think there's still some lingering, camp is over, but I think there's still some competition for roster. Like Jordan Jefferson, who they brought in, if he looks like he did with the Jaguars, and not it, they can bring Sebastian Valdez or Evan Anderson back right away. And so I think there's a lot of guys still competing for the rotation where they're going to play. There's a lot of young players that still have to earn their playing time, and some guys that are dinged up. Is Drew Moss going to cross-train at guard and maybe a little bit of center? Is he maybe the center of the future? But they had to keep Hennessy because they needed to have a veteran backup center because center is so important. You can't trust a rookie to that spot making all the calls in Kyle Shanahan's offense. So I think there's still a lot of competition with the depth of those offensive and defensive lines that's going to go on into the season.
Yeah, and the 49ers are getting a little bit deeper than they thought they maybe might be for week 1. Gross Matos looks like he's kind of on pace to play week 1, or at least has a better chance of playing week 1 than we had previously thought. Same with Dom Pooney on the other side of the trenches on the offensive line. And that's going to be a huge lift. We talked about that a little bit during the last show. I mean, health is wealth in the NFL. Nobody knows that better than the 49ers, who have just, I think if you can make the argument that the 49ers are just healthy-ish, not as injured as they were. They're just not the most injured team in the NFL last year. Then their season probably goes a little bit differently. And so obviously health is the most important thing. Availability is the best ability. And if Dom Pooney can play week 1, that will give this team a huge lift. Just also of note, Jordan James and Upton Stout both back at practice this week. Those are both very good signs. And we talked about the Jauan Jennings injury as well. So just a lot of like you said, a lot of stuff still up in the air for it being 1 week away and preseason games haven't concluded. Some position battles, some injury things that still need to be worked out. It wouldn't be a 49ers season if we just had no idea what was going on going into week 1, would it? It's just very on brand for the 49ers, just chaos reigning supreme in the John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan realm. I almost said John Shanahan. That's what's my brain doing, man. This is it's been a interesting preseason so far, but I am so ready for real NFL games. And on the other side, I want to talk a little bit about what we think those real NFL games are going to look like. What do the 49ers look like going into this season? What are we expecting from this team? Also, some more big NFL news coming out today. Some new uniforms for the 49ers. Definitely want to get some opinions from you guys on how you're feeling about these new rivalry uniforms for the 49ers. We'll get into all that and more next here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether you've got your eye on big name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. And I already said this earlier in the show, man. I'm going to be looking all season long for 49ers offensive skill players on PrizePicks because I feel like the last couple of years I've stayed away from 49ers skill position guys, right? Like the NFL and just bettors in general have been onto them. I mean, we all know that Debo was very good for a couple of years. Ayuk was very good. Christian McCaffrey was very good. All these lines were sky high, and I think that they come back down to earth a little bit this year. So I'm going to be looking for some overs or some more thans on Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey lines this year on PrizePicks. Make sure you download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers postcast. I did it again. Locked On 49ers squad show featuring Dwayne Board, Brian Peacock, and myself, Eric Triple E Engel. And the 49ers, man, we're inching closer and closer to the regular season. And I'm ready for some football, man. I'm so tired of preseason where it doesn't count and all these games are just, kind of meaningless. And we're seeing I'm having to do some deep roster dives to see who's out there on the field. I am ready for some 49ers action. And we get a treat, in my opinion, week one for 49ers Seahawks right off the rip. And maybe we can save the Seahawks specific predictions for our next show. But just in general, this year for the 49ers, I kind of want to just do a broad overview of what you guys think this team is going to do this season and what they're going to need to do to be successful. So Dwayne, I want to start with you. What do you think? What are you thinking for the 49ers this year? Is this what's their fate? Where do they end up ultimately? If you had to pick a lane right now, is this team going to the playoffs? Are they a wild card team? Are they winning the NFC West, or are they going to miss the playoffs altogether? What do you think the 49ers outcome will be this season, Dwayne?
I think the outcome on this season, they will make the playoffs, and they could win the division too, because, going back, what I always consider as big as the first 4 games of the season is how well you start, okay? Because once you get that 4-game win streak on, you put 4 games in the bag, then that's part of your season there. And that's the big thing for them, is how fast will the 49ers start, And right now, with the lineup that we already talked about, coming out with McCaffrey back and Kittle and all the guys are healthy, going up, that's the thing that they got to do. They got to grow up, grow big, and come out to shoot hungry. You can't wait around and play catch up. You get to the end of the season, you can't be saying, hey, we got to win these next 4 or 5 games just to make the playoffs. You put that money in the bank early in the season. And it's great starting off with one of the top teams in the division. Not top, but it's going to be a tough ride for them those first 4 games, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Cardinals. The first 4 go at Seattle, at New Orleans, versus the Cardinals, and then versus the Jaguars. So, I mean, we all know that the going to Seattle is going to be a very, very, very tough environment, tough game, good team in Seattle. New Orleans feels like a winnable game because they got the quarterback situation out there that is completely a giant question mark. But then the Cardinals, man, this team always concerns me. It feels like the 49ers seem to always lose a game at home to the Cardinals almost every single year. And they're just a thorn in the side, no matter how the Cardinals play the rest of the NFL season. Seems like they're always at least splitting the series against the 49ers. And I do think that it is I think the hot start thing is a good thing to touch on, because Kyle Shanahan teams have not always been good at starting the season where they want to be, and have not started the season how they want to in years past. So it'll be interesting to see. You got 2 early division games against Seattle and Arizona, like we said. And then week 5, you got the Rams. So you're getting 3 division matchups in the first 5 weeks. I think, like you're saying, the beginning part of this season, how this team starts is going to be a very, very, very big key for this 49ers team. I was just taking a peek at the chat, and it seems like we got a lot of people in here saying that the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl and going to win. So, Brian, are you on the 49ers going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl hype train?
Well, look, you asked Dwayne a minute ago what he misses from his playing days, from his coaching days, and I can tell you what the fans miss from his playing and coaching days, and that's confetti. It's been a long time. And so I don't know if I can predict this 49ers team to win the Super Bowl. I think they've had better teams. I think there's going to be some growing pains here. And if they do start fast, I think it would be a huge sign, because I think they're going to be a better team in November and December than they are right now. Some of those young players on defense developing. You get Brandon Ayuk back. You get a little bit healthier. It might be the rare team that's healthier back half of the year than they are right now before the season starts. And then at least you hope so. And if they're going the other direction, it might be another year like they were last year. And you're totally right, Eric. It's like, look, just be the 14th in the league in injuries. How about, not 32nd, not dead last in games missed this year. And you might have yourself something. So I can't pick them to win the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if I can pick them to win the West, because I think this is going to be such a hotly contested division. I think these teams are all very evenly matched. It's going to be such a good barometer week 1 and 3. Look, and if the 49ers are losing to the New Orleans Saints in week 2, then we might have to start having a different discussion on that post-game squad here, because that's not a good football team. And the march for Arch is apparently already on there in New Orleans. And I don't think he's even going to declare for the draft this year. So that might be a 2-year march for the New Orleans Saints. But look, a healthy Stafford, I think the Rams are going to be tough to beat. But look, the Rams did that last year where they started slow and they were about to have a fire sale after 4 or 5 weeks of the season. They still ended up winning the division. So I don't know that anybody's going to run away with the division, and I don't think anybody's going to be really a bottom dweller either. I think the Seahawks have the argument that they're a better team this year, especially on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive line. We'll see what happens with a quarterback with moving out Geno Smith for Sam Darnold. It feels like a lateral move to me. It's different, but not earth-shattering, I think, in the result. You get younger, at least for them. But then the Cardinals are a better team, and they've got a ton of those versatile defensive linemen that we just talked about. A lot of, you got young players. You bring in Calais Campbell. And so I really like I think they're a well-coached team too in Arizona. So those are going to be tough games in week 1 and 3. So if you can come out of there 2-1 in the first 3 games, I think that's a really good sign for the 49ers. Because again, I think they're going to get stronger and stronger as the year goes along. So a huge barometer there to start the year in those first few weeks.
Yeah, the thing that I look at, what used to get me, you got those running quarterbacks, man. Oh God.
It changes everything, right? It changes the whole dynamic of how you play football. Hey, I do like that, by the way, they added Adrian Martinez to the practice squad.
They did,
Near where I grew up. Dual threat guy. He can give him that look on the scout team of a quarterback with some athleticism too. So maybe that'll help them against those running quarterbacks, which they haven't been great against in recent history.
No, not at all. The number of times that I have watched Kyler Murray just narrowly scamper away from a massive Nick Bosa just crushing blow. It hurts my heart, man. I just want to see Nick Bosa just get one clean shot on him just once. But again, it's those it's that zone, it's that read option where the quarterback just, Nick is always going to sell out to the running back, it seems like, on that play almost 10 times out of 10 times. And seeing Kyler Murray in those little option plays just scamper around the edge and down the line for 50 plus yards, it feels like it's guaranteed to happen at least once a season against the Niners. It is so frustrating to watch.
I would love to hear from Dwayne. Who is the most annoying quarterback to play against? There wasn't as many dual threat quarterbacks back in the day as there is now, but guys like Randall Cunningham, I can't imagine that was fun to play against.
No, Randall was tough because he was fast, and the thing that you could always try to box him in. You didn't want him to get on the edge. You wouldn't have to run up in the middle. So you hope he ran him up in the middle, and his eyes got big when he saw number 42 coming at him.
Yeah.
If you had a problem, he took care of it. So, but the guy that, as a coach, that was hard to contain too was Michael Vick.
Oh,
he was a nightmare, and he was another guy you wanted to try to box in. But once he got on the edge, you didn't have nobody to catch him, So Hey, when you're a defensive lineman, it's like you chasing a guy with speed. It's like you're running in sand, he's running on a track field.
Michael
Yeah,
Vick walked so Lamar Jackson could run ahead of his time. Mike Vick and Randall Cunningham. It was one of my favorites that I wish he would have come through a different era was Cordell Stewart, because he didn't get the chance like from jump to be like the true quarterback, and he had to go through so much to get there. In this day and age, he would have been dynamic from day one. That would have been a fun career redo in another era.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many former quarterbacks from that era that I feel like it just would have been so different to see them in modern football. I feel like we could go on forever just listing guys that would be great to see in a modern offensive scheme. But we do have to hit our break here. But the 49ers, man, they got some new jerseys, and we got to talk about that on the other side. Curious what a OG like Dwayne Board feels about these new look 49ers jerseys, and just in general, we got to do some more prep for this season. We got to go over that 53-man roster just a little bit more, couple things to round it out, and just in general get some more good vibes going before we get into week 1 of the NFL season. Don't go anywhere. The Locked On 49ers Squad Show rolls on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by 4-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board and the host of the Locked On 49ers podcast, Brian Peacock. I'm Eric Triple E Engel. I do the Locked On Sports Postcast for the Locked On Giants channel, Locked On Warriors channel, and used to do the Locked On Postcast for the Locked On 49ers channel as well. Now we got the Squad Show, man. This is so much more fun than me just sitting up here for 30 minutes by myself talking into the ether. So happy to be joined by you guys. And man, I'm ready for some football. I keep saying this, but I'm so ready to watch a real football game, man. The 49ers inching ever closer. One guy that I did want to make sure that we mentioned, and I wanted to sneak this in here before we get into the jersey discussion, Jeff Wilson Jr. He doesn't make the 49ers roster, and I don't think this is a big surprise because you did have that trade for Brian Robinson Jr., which kind of filled that role that Jeff probably would have played had they not traded for Brian Robinson Jr. Would have probably seen Cowboy Jeff Wilson back in that backfield for the 49ers, but he's the odd man out in this situation. I personally really liked him just as he was one of my favorite rotation guys to watch on the 49ers. These last couple seasons always came in with the spark, and I'm just going to miss watching him out there on the field. Ultimately, I am very excited about the move. I think they are better with Brian Robinson Jr. than they are with Jeff Wilson Jr. And I'm sure you guys would agree with that. One other kind of interesting note: Chase Lucas makes the roster as well, which this whole thing was just kind of funny, just because he's the player from the Lions that, if you guys remember from the NFC Championship, Diamador Lenore was Jauan with him after the game. They have a feud that goes back to college. But now they've made nice, and Diamador Lenore has come out and said that Chase Lucas is one of his favorite guys on the roster now at this point. So kind of interesting. Just a couple little notes from the 49ers 53-man roster, and also we talked a little bit about the Russell Gage situation, but I just kind of wanted to bring that back up again, just because it just speaks to what the 49ers do, right? Like, this team is always trying to win at the margins in every possible way, and this situation is kind of interesting, right? Because they re-signed Russell Gage, so he is on the team. But that was just after cutting him a few days prior, so that they could sign another player, move him to the IR, use that as a roster spot. They did the same thing with Thomas Morstead as well, their punter. So the 49ers just doing all sorts of weird stuff to make sure that they get everybody they want. And then they did bring Marquez Valdes-Scantling in, and they end up cutting Richie Grant, who they signed in the offseason. Doesn't even get a chance to do anything for the 49ers. Kind of a bummer on that one. But just to clean up the 49ers 53-man roster situation, just wanted to get those notes in there. Also, Junior Bergen on the practice squad as well. Robbie chosen to the practice squad. So the roster's taking shape. We kind of know what this team is going to be on the field for the most part. We talked about some other things that kind of need to settle before the season gets going here. They also cut Nick Zakelj, which I personally thought was kind of interesting. They kind of, you got a lot of guys who do relatively the same thing. So it makes sense that you might move on from him. But at the same time, with the amount of alignment that they were keeping, I didn't particularly think that was going to be a situation that they were going to find themselves in. But with Dom Pooney being healthy for week 1, I think that's probably plays into that decision as well, or potentially going to be healthy for week 1. Let's move on to the jerseys, man. The 49ers black rivalry jerseys. Brian, I'm assuming you've seen this. Dwayne, have you seen the new 49ers jerseys that were released, or the new NFL jerseys that were released earlier today?
No, I haven't seen them yet, but I'm sure, it's one thing about all players like to wear black, it makes you look tough. You go back and you look at all the tough teams back in the day, they wore black. Pittsburgh Steelers, where they wear black. Oakland Raiders, where they wear black. Everybody wants to put that black jersey on. And back in the day, we only had 2 jerseys. We had a red one and a white one and gold pants. So we never got to wear a different color. But I'm sure the players will be jacked to put on that black and just go out and intimidate.
Yeah, it's like putting the eye black on. It's like getting into character, right? I know some fans have talked about like, oh, you can't wear black. It's like, what are we, the Raiders? We're not the Raiders. We're the 49ers. We wear red and gold. We don't wear black. Is there any sentiments that you would think that pop up in the locker room, Dwayne, where it's like, we're not trying to be this other team. We're this team. We wear these colors. Those guys wear those colors.
I think there's a little bit of sentiment there. I'm sure some guys, George Kittle, he was probably one of them to say, hey, man, I don't want to put on black. But, it all comes down to the color of that helmet, okay? They didn't change the color of that helmet. That's what matters,
They did.
And
they
did.
Actually, I think that's kind of everyone's talking about the jersey. I think we're burying the lead that this is the first time in my life that they've not been wearing a gold helmet. They're going to have the black helmet. It's got a gold face mask. It's got the same logo, but it's got the red stripes that kind of match the pants. So, here we go. Dwayne can see it on the screen now. It does the way they dressed it up, and look, they did some editing here, and they got some enhancement. So I'm curious to see what these look like in real life. I actually saw a picture of these a month or 2 ago that was leaked, and I wasn't 100% sure, but I was pretty sure they were going to be the jerseys. And the picture I saw doesn't look as clean as this picture does of these guys wearing them. To be honest with you, I thought they looked like flea market knockoffs the first time I saw it. And I was like, there's a lot going on here. It's like 2 different fonts and a lot of different colors. There you go. Dwayne, the black helmet. What do you think there?
I like the gold better, So they stuck a little gold in with the face mask, but the same thing with the jersey around the number. They laced the red number with a little bit of gold, but hey.
A big gold.
Now it's known for what? Red and gold, right? And then they throwing the black in. I'm not big on that.
That doesn't shock me. It does not shock me that the OG of the show, Dwayne Board, is not super on board with changing the iconic 49ers uniform. I mean, is there, you go through teams across all sports, not just football, but any sport, and pick a sport, the 49ers uniform, it's on a short list in my mind. Like, you don't see the New York Yankees coming out with new uniforms very often because you don't really need to change them. And in my mind, that's kind of the same thing with the 49ers. I mean, the only thing that I need aside from their regular uniforms that they got, their everyday gamers, I like the throwback all whites with the white pants and the shadow on the numbers. That's all I need. That's all I need is like the 80s all whites, and then the current iteration of the 49ers uniforms. I don't really need anything else, man. I mean, I don't think these are bad in comparison to the rest of the NFL uniforms that they're going to be using for the rivalry games. I think what I read was that they're going to play 2 games this season, I think, with these uniforms, 1 home, 1 away. I believe that's what I read with these black uniforms. And they're, I don't know if I need that. I don't know if I need that, man. I'm totally cool with the 49ers rolling with the red and white as they normally do. But, as far as the rivalry uniforms, you can't hate these ones when you look at the rest of them. Some of the other ones are pretty questionable, but these are pretty cool in comparison to some of the other things that I've seen today going around on social media. So yeah, you're getting a nice look at Brock Purdy wearing the mock-up of the uniform. And it does say it's a nod to the 49er faithful a little bit on it too, because it does say faithful across the chest right above the numbers. So that's kind of cool. That's about the only thing on this uniform for me that kind of jumps out at me as being, anything that really, like, the all black is cool, but I mean, we've seen it before. It's nothing new. So but the 49ers today, I mean, they're having this kind of pageantry announced before the NFL season. It almost feels like the NFL is going the direction of the NBA with these jerseys, man. Like every year the NBA's got something new that they're putting out there just to drive sales and stuff like that. And it kind of feels a little bit like that to me too. It feels a little corny.
Yeah, they're not the best, they're not the worst, but let's be honest about what it is. It's a cash grab, and Nike, and they're trying to sell some folks on some stuff. So they'll wear it for a game or two or whatever it is, and that'll be the end of it, and they'll be on to something else and try to sell something else next year. Will you be buying? If you love them, you buy them. If I'm not super into them. I do think it's fascinating though, for the first time ever, not wearing those, or the first time in my lifetime. I think they wore some. I think the original helmets weren't gold either, but that was before my time, Eric's time, Dwayne's time. I think everybody's time that's even around anymore. I think it was before everybody's time. But yes, in my lifetime, nothing but gold helmets. So the black helmets, I think, is the interesting part. And black from head to toe. Yeah, whatever. They're trying to sell some jerseys. You know how it goes. Never enough money in
and helmets too. Everybody want a black autograph helmet, but hey,
there you go.
1994, we wore all white, and that was the year we won the last Super Bowl for the 49ers too. But we won't bring that up.
Yeah. That I was exactly, I believe, 8 months old when that happened. So it's been a while, man. I have not been able to see for all intents and purposes, in my lifetime, I have not seen a 49ers championship. Had a lot of close ones, but have not seen them summit that mountaintop in my lifetime. And I would very much so like to see that happen at some point. I'm 32. It's been quite a while, man. So I would very much so like the 49ers to get there this season. Although, as we all kind of agreed, I think that they're, you look at the 49ers schedule, I think that this is probably a playoff team. They have one of the easiest schedules in all of the NFL. But it is going to be, I think, a large miracle if the 49ers somehow find themselves hoisting the Lombardi at the end of the year. I think that would just require just a perfect storm for the 49ers to be able to get to that point and accomplish that. That would be absolutely bonkers in my mind. But the 49ers, I do think that they will. I've seen a lot of lines around 10.5 for the 49ers win total. I think they probably get to about that. I think that's pretty spot on. I think they get to 11, depending on kind of how they start this football season. I mean, if you're able to win 2 of the 3 against your division opponents in those first 5 games, I think you probably get to the over on that mark. I think you might get to 11, but I think 10, 11 wins does get you into the playoffs. I think that it gets you probably a wild card berth. I don't see this team particularly winning the NFC West. I think that the Rams, the Seahawks, I think pretty much every team in the division is improved. So it's going to be tough sledding for the 49ers this year. Thankfully, you get a couple games like, the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers and the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts, who don't know what they're doing in quarterback. So you get a lot of winnable games this season on the schedule, but you still got to play. You still got to play them. You still got to win. You can't overlook anybody in this league. And I think it's going to be tough for the 49ers to have too much success in the postseason this year, but I do think that they will get there this season. Real quick, just to wrap up this show, if there's one thing that the 49ers need to do to get to the postseason, what is that? Dwayne, let's start with you. The one thing the 49ers need to do to get to the postseason this year.
Well, I think to get to the postseason, they're going to have to pack the special teams. I think that the key to it, to get there, they need to have a good return team. I'm talking on kickoffs and also a good punt returner. And right now, you don't see that on the team right now as a punt returner. If somebody has to step up and be that guy.
And Brian, what about you? Pick one thing that the 49ers got to do this year in order to make the postseason.
Dwayne making a little bit of a 360 last week. He was crushing the kicking game, and now he's talking about how important it is. Maybe that's why it's so frustrating, because it's so important and you have no control. You just sit there and watch and pray for those kicks to go in on special teams.
That's big, special teams, man. You got to have them. That's part of the team too.
Yeah, it's the third phase. You can't forget about that third phase of the game.
In my book, it's defense, special teams, offense.
Yeah. In that order.
The
defensive player.
Yeah.
The 49ers, first of all, got to stay healthy. I think that's the biggest one. And they really haven't even been that. They weren't that last year, and they haven't been that this year leading up to the team. I think there's a really big emphasis on development on this team. We know how good Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle are, and Brock Purdy and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. It's everybody else, Is Ricky Pearsall going to take that step in year 2? He's going to be expected to be the number 1 wide receiver from jump. Will one of those rookie defensive linemen step up and prove that they're a starting caliber player and be a menace for opposing run games and opposing quarterbacks? So how the young players develop, I think, is one of the big keys to this season and really to the future of the 49ers as they kind of reset this thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on the young players thing. I think this is probably the most dependent the 49ers have been on draft picks immediately producing, probably since the George Kittle draft. They're going to really need a lot of these players that they drafted this year, and a lot of second-year players too. Like, you can't forget about like Renardo Green and Dom Pooney, who both of these guys played a lot last year and showed you some stuff, but they got to continue to progress and take steps forward. And you need all these young rookies to contribute as well. It's a lot to ask, but I do think that the 49ers have a pretty solid group and are going to have a chance at making the postseason this year. I do think that if you gun to my head, is this team going to make the postseason? I'm going to say yes. And so we'll see as this season progresses. That's pretty much all the time we got for you guys today here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Real quick before we get on out of here, I just want to give a shout out to Greg Papa, the voice of the 49ers on the radio. I know Greg from my time working at KMBR pretty well, and it's a bummer what he's going through, his health issues and stuff, but a little bit of news here. The 49ers announced that 5 different broadcasters will rotate this season to fill in for Papa, including Stanford's Troy Clarity, who I work with. I do some Stanford work on Saturdays as well. So I work with Troy. I know him well. He does great stuff. Cal's Justin Alighieri, Carlos Ramirez, Guy Haberman, and young buck Jack Smith. And so you have 5 different guys doing the job of one Greg Papa. Speaks to the greatness of Greg Papa. So shout out Greg. Feel better, man. And we're all pulling for you, all the 49er faithful. So we'll get a lot of different broadcast styles this year if you're tuning in on the radio to some 49ers games this year. But for us here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board and Brian Peacock. It's all the time that we got for you guys today. We'll be back, I believe, next week, or are we doing a show this weekend? I think we still got to figure that out. So we'll update everyone. Make sure you're following me and Brian on X or Twitter, whatever the hell they call that website now, at Eric_Engel, at BD Peacock, and we'll be updating links to the show, times, all that kind of stuff. And thanks to everyone for tuning in to the show. It wouldn't be a show without all the listeners, without all you guys. So I'm excited for some football, man. I'm excited for some football. I'm so ready to see some meaningful snaps, and I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready for it. It's all the time that we got for you guys today here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.